Lovely. If you could share, please, a couple of requests for what to talk about today, that would be great. Healing. Nothing more than healing. Sorry. What else?
There's a book, Outwitting Tomorrow by Diane Thorpe.
What's it called?
Outwitting Tomorrow by Diane Thorpe. It was published in 1936.
Okay. That's the same as Outwitting Tomorrow. One was over there. What did you say over here? A minute ago? Yes? Okay, that's enough. Okay. Wow. You know, it's an interesting thing. And I asked requests. It was also this is what our team members do. They as much as they think that I'm the spiritual leader here, they leave me notes. Talk about this, you know. So this is from one of our admins. I won't say who it was, Tracy. But she's asked me, and she's waited patiently for a few weeks. She wanted me to talk about a specific topic. So I'm going to bridge what she's asked for in with the 83 things you guys asked for. And everything ties together, you know. I love weaving things together, and people go, that's so magical, you know. How do you do that? You just go into all this consciousness and bring all these pieces together. Yes, that is brilliant. I'm amazing. But it's actually not that challenging if we open our mind to realize everything is connected. I mean, that's all you have to do is know everything's connected, and it starts writing itself, speaking itself, you know, poeting itself. It's if we understand that. Human beings think they separated from God, which is like, call it the ultimate fragmentation. And then each fragment split again, and each fragment from that split again. So the universe just reflects this fragmentation, a fragmentation that's way beyond what human minds could even conceive. It is fragmentation. So when we get here and we start thinking about how to get home, the route home is fragmented. It's a labyrinth times what? A million? A trillion? Right? There's no end to it. So it's a labyrinth, which is why we have mental illness and depression and codependence, because people are desperately looking for something, because the fragmentation feels so horrible. Wholeness doesn't. Wholeness is how things weave together. So we, in our partnerships, parenting, business, whatever work we do, we need to come back to that understanding. You know, simplify. Everything is connected. Get the mind used to that. Instead of separating, fragmenting from things. How do I, over here, get the lottery that's over there? How do I find my life mate or soulmate or whatever it is that's over there? You can't find it if it's already been determined to be somewhere else. So we find ourselves, everything really is within you, within us. And when we really say it, it's not just, you know, a cool t-shirt. Everything's within you, man. It's the truth. But do we get that? And when we get that, anything and everything can come to us. The so-called Akashic Records, that's a real thing. And it's the book of life, but there's variations to the understanding of this. But the Akashic Records means, or Akashic Records, depending on your pronunciation, it's a Sanskrit word that really has to do with this. This is the memory of life. All things that have ever been, all things, foliage, critters, amoebas, people, words, emotions, anything that's ever been in this universe is recorded there in this kind of etheric record. And, it's an amazing thing. Somebody like Edgar Cayce taps into that. Now, there are psychics of today that say, I read from the Akashic Records. They might not. It's hard to say because everybody uses the term so loosely now. But the truth is, there are songs you have sung to that came from the Akashic Records. There are paintings that have been painted from the Akashic Records. So that's fantastic if you think about it. Well, how do you know if something really came from the records? Well, you'll never, with the intellectual mind, be able to figure that out and stamp it, from the Akashic Records. But generally, these messages, these records, these recordings, they're things that prove themselves. The reader, like Cayce with his 90% accuracy rate. So that's partly what Jesus meant by the fruits you shall know them. So look at the results of your reading from the Akashic Records. How dead on is it? And I'm not trying to make you compare or compete with other readers or anything like that. I'm just saying that the records are so perfect. Cayce could tell you the past, present, and future based on probabilities, possibilities for future, because that's being built today. Everything we see tomorrow is built today. A couple of you asked about things like changing the future or predictions. We had a really beautiful afternoon last Sunday. We talked about predictions from 2023 and beyond. And it's interesting because you're hearing a record of us. You're hearing predictions that come from us, our collective consciousness. That can be changed. Any one person can change the entire field of everything else, everybody else. But you'd have to have a pretty clear mind to be able to have that kind of an effect. Or you can have an effect by recognizing your oneness with everybody and working with the one and changing that instead of changing you and hoping to have an effect on the all. Just be part of the all and have an effect there. So that goes into other topics. But what I'm saying is predictions of anything are only ever possibilities and probabilities when we're talking about things that are of time. So Cayce could read the past. And I mean, he was giving geological records that were far more accurate before mankind was printing these kinds of records. Cayce was telling him how old the planet is, the moon is, etc. And when we had discoveries early on, we were far from that. We were thinking, no, the universe is only this old, or the planet is this old. Cayce said, no, it's this old. And it took 50 years at least, if not 70 or more, for science to catch up with his opinions or theories, his predictions, his readings. When Helen wrote A Course in Miracles, something really astounding happened, because before she was told, here it comes, like you're now ready to channel A Course in Miracles, she had a vision. Long story short, it was a scroll in front of her. And she was told, if you unroll the scroll to the left, you will know everything from the past. If you unroll the scroll to the right, you'll know everything about the future. She started to unroll, she paused, she rolled it back, and she said, I'm going to leave it. Because right in the middle were the words, God is. So she chose not to read the past or future, which Cayce said yes to, which is a good thing to do. She went one step further, not in her Akashic record reading ability, one step further into what? Saying, what would you have me do, God? God is. So Cayce compulsively did what a guy with a 6th grade education and all this metaphysical stuff coming through. He's a farmer and everybody's telling him this is like evil, this whole metaphysical thing. He was confused by it all. So his readings had some of that fear embedded in the readings themselves, which is why Cayce's readings aren't always easy to read. It's because, like Nostradamus cloaked his quatrains with ancient French, ancient Latin, and astronomical symbols so that nobody could understand him. Well, by the same token, Cayce unconsciously sabotaged his readings in the languaging so that people wouldn't understand it all so easily. Why? Because he was feeling this fear that what he was doing was to his Christian friends, it wasn't right. So he was downloading, without realizing, a filter of sabotaging some of the wording. We try to read it today and we think it's just complicated wording. We're channels and we're filters. Spirit can come straight through us, but you're still a filter. Single, non-single, male, female, mom, not mom. All these are filters that affect us. Confident, not confident. Moses was told, you're going to be a channel of something great. Here it comes. I want you to do this, 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 this. This is God speaking to Moses. And, Moses is like, you must have picked the wrong guy. Everybody knows I have I'm slow of speech. I have something about my wording that I'm not really the best articulate person. And interestingly enough, God says, well, we're going to give you a sidekick to help you with this and work you along and be part of your mouthpiece. And I want you to remember that. You're a musician, or you're not a musician, and you receive songs. And you think this is coming to the wrong person. God will work with you. God will find a way to make things make sense. If you're told, like me, I've written, 10 books. I don't even know how to type. So you can say I can't, and God will go, whatever. Like, talk to the non-hand, okay? So I sit there and I do this, or I caught on to something. I dictate things into my phone and then send it to my email and then get the email, copy and paste it into a Word document. And I learned to do that, which is, trust me, a lot quicker than this. So God will find a way. And God will find a way. We're going into a future that's challenging because the end is coming in so many ways. The end as we know it is coming soon. The end of what we were comfortable with and knew about. And some people say, no, I don't want that to happen. It's already happening. How do people not know that or see that? And we've covered that here and there, but you can go back and watch the talk about that, I guess. But just understanding that we can change anything, but I want to change something. And if I want it to be a global change, I have to convince you to also want to change it. I can't make my opinions of the future land on you. It doesn't work that way. I have free will. Yes, I can. No, because they have free will. And they say, no, you can't. So if I decide I want 2 moons in the sky starting today, let me try that. No, I don't think it happened because we haven't accepted it yet. So you make your changes in this world. You step up and you make the changes you can, accept what you can. But you make the changes. And even if I pray for 2 moons, if this planet was never meant to have them, maybe I'll end up incarnating on a planet that has 2 moons. Or maybe there'll be an etheric version of it out there that only I can see. That's my reality. I'm allowed to have my reality. But if we want to make changes that everybody grooves with, everybody agrees with, you're dealing with the human ego, and it just doesn't like to give in too easily. And there are a lot of gifts that come with waking up. Call it awakening Christ consciousness. There are gifts that go along with these things. There are gifts of the Holy Spirit. There are things that we're all attaining. But the sooner we get on board, the sooner they can kick in. But do I want to keep believing in my fears or our collective fears? There's a point where we just say, no, you know what? Despite the way the world looks, despite the way people are, they resist or whatever, I'm ready to go. And so the world is changing. You can be ready for your own ascension into higher consciousness. If the world doesn't want that or agree with that, so be it. Let them do what they're going to do. Old Testament Torah, let others do as they may, but as for me and mine, we will serve the living God. Meaning, God, consciousness. I want to step into the light and move forward. If you're meant to read the past, the future, whatever, great. The more we surrender to God as our guide in such things, the more accurate and profound will our work be. Just get used to letting go of the little self. There's something more that's, awaiting us. So let's talk about ways to awaken Christ vision and ways to deal with some of the things you're asking about. Healing, for example. And there's a lot of talks we've done on healing. You can watch them. There's so many free ones on YouTube. But even the concept of healing, there's Michael or a doctor or a surgeon or a counselor looking at a sick patient, but now you've confirmed and affirmed that they're sick and you need to help them as best you can. And if you can't fix them in 1 round, you charge them for 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and you medicate them, and it goes on and on and on because everybody keeps affirming the sickness of that person. At some point, if I can activate Christ's vision, not visions of Jesus or Christ, but the vision of Christ consciousness. If I can put on a different headset and it's the crown of Christ consciousness, I will see people differently. Now, when I see you differently, you start to change. But people have the right to say, no, I don't want healing. And so it is. But if you're in the Christ mind, you already smile and go, it's already there. Can't you see it? No, I refuse to see it. No problem. But I see it. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to see people's good before they do. And once you plug into Christ consciousness, you will see their good before. People say to me, Michael, man, the places you've navigated, whether it was work related to psychological trauma, childhood trauma, death, destruction, all the work that I've done throughout my years, people say, how did it not affect you? Because a lot of people that do a lot of healing and counseling and all, there's a lot of heavy stuff. Well, I'm a human being, so there's times when it has weighed on me, where, the heaviness of people's pain once in a while. But why didn't it affect me? I'm kidding. It should have had a far more intense effect. Why do I still feel so good? Because the vision of Christ consciousness is helping us see the end result. You're not looking at the person and the problem when they come to you. If I were a sponsor in the program, in AA, let's say, and somebody came to me, oh, I'm drinking this and that, and I was like, oh, God, this is tough. I don't know if you'll ever heal. I think you're going to have a tough time getting to sobriety. That's not helpful. Technically, if you're a good sponsor, you should be envisioning where they're going and work with them on how to get there, but envision where they're going. Not envision how hard it's going to be to get there. That's the work we're going to do, but you must hold the vision. The same as a pregnant woman giving birth. Do you really look at her as she's, and go, are you having second thoughts? That's going to help. There you go. I don't know. I was into this, honey, having this home birth, but I'm thinking we should sit and think about this and start over. It just doesn't work that way. And it's the same with the birthing of our Christ self. It's like you're on a roll and it's moving in a certain direction. So you can, get on board or you can fight it, but it's going to happen. Our real selves, people's healing, their healed selves, it's already there, but they're waiting. I swear to you, when people walk in a room, even if it's just a friend or an acquaintance or a customer, they walk in. Everybody walking into any room on the planet is making a statement. Hi there, I am very scared and messed up. Can you help me? And you're like, hi, nice to see you. You missed it. You missed it. You missed it again and again and again. People are always reaching out energetically, and people either don't want to see it or they feel they have enough on their plate and they can't do it. Everybody that walks in any door, the body is a messenger. When I walk in and I slightly hunch forward, it's a message that I'm trying to give somebody. I'm carrying too much burden. Do you care? And nobody does. They don't notice it. We're Christ. We have the ability to see things other people don't see. And you can go, immediately, oh, I see what's happening. That's partly, I'm going to share several symptoms, let's say, or ways to attain this Christ vision. But the first has to do, and again, the vision of Christ doesn't mean visions of Christ. I mean having the mindset, the vision of Christ consciousness. The first technique has to be forgiveness. When we practice forgiveness, you're actually lifting veils that help you see more clearly. So this isn't like, hey, how many of you would like to awaken Christ's vision? And everybody's saying, okay, great, peyote and a beer, that'll do it. As soon as we start talking about external means, no offense to peyote dealers, as soon as you start talking about external things, magical things, even things of yoga asanas, postures, anything of the outside, it'll help, but you're missing the point. If you can do all these tricky things on the outside and not practice forgiveness, you're a hypocrite. The reason you would take these things that help, quote, open your vision to a new level. It's like Paul McCartney once say, yes, taking acid really does and smoking pot really does help you see things differently. And he said, but it's like taking an aspirin when you don't have a headache. That was brilliant, because what it means is you don't need it. You can just do it. You can just access this other thing. But it involves work, like forgiveness. Well, wait a minute. I don't need to practice forgiveness. Watch, I just light up and I won't have any resentments in a minute. I'm just like, wow, everything's just cool. But when you're done being stoned, you still have the same issues, triggers, past life, unhealed stuff. I know it sounds like more work to heal, and it seems to be, but it's real consciousness changing, not stimuli. It's not a moment. It's real. Someone asked me recently, did something ever trigger in your life that just boom, opened things up? And I said, well, for me, lifetimes. I've always had this thing like this relationship with spirit, the beliefs in this. So some of us are waiting for an epiphany. We don't have to reach bottom to want to rise to the top. You can just start anywhere you are. Your life doesn't have to hit 0 to want to eventually turn it around and get to 10. Why don't you just go from 8 to 10 or 5 to 10? This is free will. We can choose this, but this has to be something we truly want. We have to see the value of where we want to go to get there. Forgiveness, it's always so underestimated. You bring it up and people, oh yeah, forgiveness, yeah. Yeah, I did some of that. Really? Are you there yet? You home yet? Are you one with God yet? No. Keep forgiving. Well, but I already did. I just forgave that one person. Everybody, I can sit with an audience like this and say, I'm forgiving you all. Well, for what? None of you kicked me lately. Well, wait, yesterday. Yeah. No. None of you kicked me. Who am I going to forgive and why? I need to forgive that I even think you're sitting there. You're God. And I think you're sitting in a little body, zipped up, male, female, and whatever else. You're not actually there. You are my psychotic episode. And I don't like you. Why? I don't like you because you're these little people zipped up in bodies, which reminds me I'm a little body zipped up. And therefore, you're reminding me that I'm not God. But if I forgive you for the role I assign to you, I love you, please forgive me, or so on. If I can resign you from the role I've given you and let you be what you really are, I start to see the real you, which is the Christ, and then I start to feel the real me, which is the Christ, and I have Christ's vision. Forgiveness is I won't say that they're necessarily in certain order. You have to do this one first. But I'm just saying forgiveness is a key. It lifts the veils to my vision. I mean, it really does. It lifts the veils from anything that I thought was in the way in the first place. Unconscious things usually, but conscious things too. So if I awaken Christ's vision, I'm still going to be able to perceive things like there's a tsunami, or it's really hot out today, or this person's ill. You'll still be able to be in the world, but you won't be of the world. You'll be here, be able to see issues, but you won't see that as the goal. You'll see that someone presents you with sadness today. They're really feeling down, and you'll turn it into the outcome. So an example, when the apostles do what they're doing, they're all running different directions, running for their lives, trying to figure out what to do because Jesus says, I'm going to be arrested. When Jesus says to Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times. And Peter's like, no way. Remember that he says to Peter, don't worry about it. I'm already seeing you at the end result where you're at peace. So Jesus didn't say, yeah, man, it's going to be tough. And let's talk about how sad you're going to be and angry. And by the way, I'm really not feeling comfortable that you were a good friend of mine and you threw me under the bus. He didn't go to all the problems. He went to where we're going to go with this, right? That's a really great example of putting on the mind of Christ or putting on the will of God. It doesn't mean you go, there are no problems and the predictions of the future do not exist. They do. But as you even look at things like that, you'll see them with their beautiful and joyous end result. You could start reading the book of Revelation. I don't think you're going to make it more than a few chapters and you're going to hit major depression. But do know that at the end of that book, there's a new Jerusalem that descends from the sky. Why does it say descend? Well, I thought we were ascending. Yeah, well, this is just one of the many things that are misunderstood. We're ascending in consciousness. And when it talks about a new Jerusalem descending from the sky to the earth for a period of time, it's talking about the presence of God will finally be not only wished for, prayed for, begged for the way we do, but welcomed and accepted. And then all of a sudden you have heaven on earth, which isn't completely home yet, but it's the new dimension that we'll be living in. And I'm not one of those that's telling you it's coming tomorrow. Let's pass the Kool-Aid. That's not my thing. I'm not into that. I'm simply into change consciousness day by day, and whatever level you get to, that's the level you're at today. And how about tomorrow? What do you want to do? I'm just into let's just go easy on ourselves. You don't have to get to some enlightened state by the end of the day or else. Just keep doing your work. How much work you really want to do is all contingent on how much you're in love with the result. If you drag your feet, you can say, gosh, I always drag my feet. It's okay, honey. You say to yourself, it just confirms we don't want it that badly yet. Try that on. You know what's going to happen when you say that to yourself? Fine. You catch yourself. Because really, how much did you want it? I didn't ascend yet today because you don't really want it yet. When you want it badly enough, sobriety, you're going to get it. You want to fight drinking or addiction? That's different than accepting sobriety. You have to want it badly enough. Relationships and the desperation that everybody has with this human stuff, it just keeps everybody in such a tense, stressed out place. The second key, the first one being forgiveness, the second key to attaining Christ's vision is think as a we. Think more often outside of your little self. I mean, literally help people. Your funds are yours, but you're a steward. Remember, all the way back to Eden, Adam and Eve, they're told you are stewards here. You are there to share, not take and miser yourselves up. You're a steward. Give. Be here and bring the presence of God to every plant, to every animal, to every person. Think as a we. And even the manifestation of Eve means there's a we involved. So we need to shift away from thinking our little selfish selves. You might know a narcissist and say, God, I'm so glad I'm not one of those. Every time you think about just you and your needs or particulars, you're being sort of narcissistic. Even though the term narcissism is a misunderstood term. I mean, most people don't even know the true story about Narcissus, how he ended up. It's a Greek mythology character, but it's not what people make it out to be. They just conveniently stamp these psychological profiles on people and use Greek names. It's not real helpful. So thinking as a we is one of the ways to attain Christ's vision. And this is interesting because, first of all, if you're a doctor, you're not there to just doctor your clients. We're a we. They needed an extra something. Yes, you told them and you wrote them a script that nobody can read, but did you take their hand and say, and I know everything will be okay? Oh, no, I can't take hands because, there's these rules and people get upset, and then don't. But how can you be more of a we today? How can you think beyond yourself? And this can be to lovers with a true sense of connection, not just a hyper-stimulating one, but true sense of connection. It could be, when your kids come home from school and say, look, I did a painting. Oh, that's nice. See, I didn't join with them. Oh, let me see. Oh, what is that? See, connect. So thinking as a we can take many forms. Even, surrendering your life for another. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving examples. A person who donates a kidney, a person who wills their organs that some people believe in doing and some don't. But whatever the case, thinking as a we, taking an extra minute, to just take hands. And there's this, we had an estate sale this last weekend, Judy and company, and I volunteer there. And there were a couple people, always interesting dynamics, people you meet. And there's this one woman, very intense presence, you know, like she shows up, you can hear her, feel her, she shows up. And, you know, there was a point where somebody, you know, said something, everything is half price the last hour or whatever of the sale. And she turns to me and says, "You too?" You know, I'm like, "Free for you, baby." You know, and at the end when she was leaving, she goes, "I hope you didn't mind my joking." Not at all. I thought you were serious. You know, no, but not at all. Like, this is what she wanted and needed in that moment. For God's sakes, play, laugh. And this one lady was leaving with a heavy basket of stuff. And I said, "Do you need help?" What I meant was, "I'll get somebody to help you." And she goes, "Oh, yeah, if you were willing." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I take her stuff and we're walking and she puts her arm through mine. She's, you know, this tall, older lady, and she puts her arm through and she's snuggling up to me as we're walking down the street. You know, I said, "So where are we taking this?" Meaning, where's your car? She goes, "Cornville." I'm like, all right, here we go. So joining can be playfulness. You know, honestly, joining can be playfulness. Like being present, laughing, enjoying, and snuggling. And she started pulling away. I said, "Come on, get in here." And she snuggled in more as she's walking with me down the street. You know, the old Boy Scout helping a person across the street. How can you? At the end of every day, every one of us should be able to identify at least once that we thought outside ourselves. I'm not saying neglect yourself. That's a rescuer. I'm talking about bridging. How can I be helpful today in whatever form that was? Find some way, but this is definitely one of the key ways of awakening that Christ vision. Call it even the good karma, but it isn't just the good karma. It's that in Christ, everything is one. So when you take two people or more and you bridge and you bring them in so that you're joining with them, you're actually activating Christ's vision. You're going to see things differently. Concern for others and not just yourself. And believe it or not, that feeds the soul. It really does. Some people, most people really underestimate the concept of what's called being of service. Being of service is in the top 3 things you can do to cure depression, because it's hard to be depressed when you've made a difference in people's lives, unless you really want to be. "Yeah, I helped all kinds of people today, but I'm still just going to be miserable." You're allowed. You know, the dogs and cats down at the shelter that you helped, they're doing backflips. But you're like coughing up hairballs and, because you cleaned out their pins and all that. You can make yourself miserable if you want, but I'm saying it really is next to impossible to stay miserable when you make a difference in people's lives. They can say thank you and you can just brush it off, and that's resistance. Why? Why not just, soak it in? How beautiful it is when people say, "I met you 10 years ago and you said this one thing and it made a difference." And to go, soak it in. Just, wow. And I'm telling you, service, heart chakra, right? But I'm telling you, service activates the root chakra. Those of you who feel root chakra is kind of low, be of service. And this thing down here goes, 2 legs go, "Oh my God, I like being here. Oh my God, look at the difference I'm making." You wake up, you activate your presence. The third technique, I guess we can call it, for activating the vision of Christ or Christ's vision. Think in terms of get in the habit of prayer, meditation, conversations with God. This is a great way to trick yourself into believing you deserve it. If you say, "Well, I don't know, Michael said, talk to God." Okay, God, hi. I could use a nicer refrigerator. You're going to go into grocery lists and Christmas lists as though it's Santa Claus, "God, I want this. Doesn't matter. Get in the mood, get used to talking to God. Prayer, meditation, affirmation, but conversations with God, Jesus, whatever you want to use as your connection to God. I would go as high as I could, though. Like, deceased grandma, Could you tell God that I'm hoping to have a connection soon? She'd be like, go see him yourself. You don't want to just go to deceased relatives. Try to go at least to angels. That's cool. But you could also go to God, and God will hook you up with some angels. Go to Christ, and Christ will hook you up with some angels. They give it to their hands, and they know what to do with bringing the angels in and all that. But go as high as you can, but communicate. It tricks you into believing you deserve. And I hope you understand when I say the word tricks, it's not a negative thing. I'm saying your mind is like on defense. I'm going to pray, but there's a defense system, the subconscious mind, that's going to say, no, we don't deserve, we can't. We were brought up in this religion. We have past lives, vows of this. Remember, we got hurt in another lifetime and we said, I'll never believe in God again because of my hurt. You have all that stuff. Just talk to God and it starts dispersing it, and piercing right through all these bizarre the gauntlet of doubt. Just because you made yourself speak to God. As honestly and lovingly as possible. And you can be rude too. It's okay. It doesn't upset God's aura or whatever for you to just be, sometimes. God, I believe in you. God, everything's affirming, my higher self and seal up my aura. I'm calling in angels. Blah, blah, blah. You can do all that beautiful stuff. But sometimes, what were you thinking when you gave me that husband? Sometimes it's like, and it's not like God goes, oh, well, I was going to give you a gift of miracle, but now you spoke so rudely to me. God doesn't have that to respond with. Just get it out of your system. If I swear to you, God is happy that you spewed it out. God doesn't see the problem, it sees the end result. And what it sees after you've vomited out stuff is you feel a little better. After the fever breaks, you feel better. The fever might seem uncomfortable, but there's a point where you feel different. You can tell something's different. And it's the same with all this. So in prayer, in meditation, I have a free download on my website it's michaelmirdad.com. It's called the Daily Communion Exercise. That's a great exercise. It's free, So just finding some way to get in the habit of communicating. I think we've done 3. So fourth one, synchronicity, but I'm going to call it divine synchronicity. We can connect and create more of a Christ vision developing in ourselves when we work with divine synchronicity. But I'm saying divine, true synchronicity. False synchronicity is more like, hey, God, I would like a new car, can't afford it, have terrible credit, but I'm going to flip a coin. And if that coin comes up heads, I'll know that you're telling me that I'm supposed to get a car. Okay, 2 out of 3. Okay, wait, 3 out of 5. That's not divine synchronicity. That's not true. You're just manufacturing something. I've told the story before, but there's this great one about the guy who says, I'm starting a new diet. Tomorrow morning I'm going to start a new diet. I'm going to go on a diet for a month. And so he wakes up and he's craving a donut. Okay? And he's like, oh, what am I going to do? And then finally, well, I'm not going to have any donuts. I'm dieting. Okay. I got to run some errands though. Some of them happen to be over, near the donut store. Just happen to be over there. And you see the donut store. No, that's okay. That's okay. And it's calling and calling, Okay. God, if you want me to have a donut, there'll be a parking spot right in front of the doors to the donut store. Sure enough, about the 8th time around the block, there was a parking spot right in front of the door. See, it was God. That's not divine synchronicity. Almost everybody that talks about soulmates, it's not divine synchronicity. They're manipulating the universe. They're making things happen based on their own stuff. These fantasized attractions and whatever. It's like my astrologer said I'd be meeting my significant life mate soon and that they would be a brunette. What are the odds of meeting a brunette? And I met one just this month, a brunette. Like, what are the odds? No, I mean, that's not going to add up. It's not going to convince me it's true. Anything. The divine synchronicity is not about others. It's not about you finding the other. No offense, because I know everybody's out there looking. But it's not about that person you find. It's the person you are. Okay? It's the person you are. Christ's vision can't see the other that completes you. It can see that as a problem, and it sees that one day you will find completeness within yourself as the end result. So it's all for soulmates. But when you realize we're all one, the notion starts to diminish in terms of specialness. Where's that one and only? Right? Where's that one and only? So it's that concept of, I think I've met the one. And this time I think the one is the right one. Because I've met other ones before. I mean, it's so weird that we do these things. So just away from the human lack and desire for the other. To be able to, and I know it's not easy because we say, but this is normal and it's human desire. I didn't say don't have those. I said don't confuse those with divine presence, divine synchronicity. God cannot see you as a separate individual, so it can't hook you up on divinehookups.com. God, that's not God. I went online and I typed in a profile for dating, and guess what? Somebody responded. It must be meant to be. Oh yeah, grab the first one. That always works. Come on. Just think about it. I remember, I was going to say when I was young. No, I remember, way back, I was around 30, early 30s, and some friends thought it would be funny to put a profile of me on a dating website. Yeah. It went nowhere because they wrote things about me. He's so bizarre. He's eccentric. He's odd. He never wants to go out. He never does anything. He's not fun. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do this. He doesn't want to dance. He just, he just stays in his office and works. There's a 10 for anybody. It's true. And so for me to ever have chosen to engage with anybody, they had to be willing to kind of dance with that eccentricity, that peculiar, this is his work. A partner from when I was very young, years after it ended, it was like, she said, you just worked all the time. And I said, I know. There's no apology to that. God comes first. So I'm like, yeah, and I said, but you knew that when we met, when I was 18, 17, I think we met. You knew that I was at 17, I was like, God first. I'm like, but I'm not like monkish, when I say God first. But I just, I said, you knew that. And she said, yeah, but I didn't think it was going to last, So don't meet people with your projections of where you want this to go. This needs to be, I am feeling great. And then I can decide to share that greatness with someone else that would like to feel their greatness and share it. That's really a holy relationship. Two complete people. That's what the Bible meant by two individuals will become one. Listen, it didn't mean two halves would become one in marriage. It meant two people would become one. Each of them would become one. Not both becoming one, each would become one. One little twist to that line and it changes the entire meaning. When you enter a holiness of a relationship, honesty, loving, vulnerability, sharing, etc., and develop your sense of who you really are, you do your inner work. You're becoming a whole person, meeting other whole people. That's the greatest goal of it all. All the other is sad. I'm not criticizing any of us for doing those searches and don't get me wrong. It doesn't matter to me. Anybody, you meet people online, you can meet people at a grocery store, do what you want. I think it's fine, but just keep developing this person while you play with others. Because you're going to find out one day there were no others. They were just aspects of you, either being gifted from those others things that you earned or lessons that you didn't learn from others that came around full circle to another person. That's all it's going to be. It's just really, this all the world's a stage and everybody's playing a part. And we just have to decide, okay, do I want to keep projecting those parts onto others, or when do I want to own? I actually wrote this play. And I've hired all the actors instead of I write it, hire them, and they go, oh my God, I'm a victim of all these actors. It's kind of weird. I mean, it'd be like a director being frightened at night, can't sleep because of the horror movie I'm making. The actors, they're just so creepy looking. You were there when they were putting it on layer by layer. Remember they went, boo. It's like, don't be afraid of your own shadow, as some of us would hear it said. So divine or true synchronicity. The next one, attaining the vision of Christ, is going to also happen through our dreams and visions. Dreams, nighttime dreams. Most people, when they're sleeping, have confused, bizarre, very just odd, scattered dream symbols. And that's happening for two main reasons. One, the ego loves sabotaging anything. So you could have this dream where God itself pierces the veil and says, hello, beloved. Here are the lottery numbers. Pay close attention. That can happen. And then the veil shuts and the dream starts downloading. And then I'm driving down the street on a unicycle. And then I wrote it up the top of a palm tree. And up on the palm tree, I recited half of a poem. And I said, I wish I knew the rest of that poem. So then I flew. And I flew to a mountain where I saw a raccoon looking for the other half of that poem. And it was going like this. And it was suddenly, what was that dream? And it doesn't make any sense. The ego just blew it apart. But it's also abstract because we're in the astral plane when we're dreaming. And the astral plane is like that. In the astral plane, if we were having this class, and we partly are, in the astral plane, you would be thinking you're looking up here, but I would be on the ceiling or floating, and everything's abstract. That's the way the astral plane is. Where you see a door over here, it's actually over there. So you don't walk through that door. There was a great Twilight Zone episode that covered this. I don't know if any of you remember, but there's this little boy, if I remember correctly, because this too happened when I was young. This little boy is in his bed, and I think he drops a ball, and it disappears under the bed, and he can't find it. At some point, he goes looking for it, and he goes through a portal into the astral plane. So the parents can hear him, but they can't see him. They bring over a neighbor who's into the metaphysical stuff, and he starts drawing on the wall where this doorway is and noticing every minute it's shrinking. We have to get your son out of there before the door closes, which is true. That stuff happens. And so the door's closing and they're like, well, what are we going to do? And the father, let me go in there. No, because if you go in, you'll be lost too. Because they're telling the kid, don't go walking towards the doorway. It's not where you think it is. You're in the astral plane. So they send the dog in that will not rely on its senses of that. It has a different set of senses. They send the dog in, tell the kid, grab the leash of the dog, and then the dog leads the kid out. And it's like that. The astral world, you're not going to have a lot of success figuring it out or making it fit our more linear conversations. So they're going to be scattered. However, when we're awakening, and as we're awakening our spirituality, communing with God, conversing with God, practicing forgiveness, you're not as bound to the astral world as you were at one time. See, if you're just kind of a wounded person and you're just an average human being with desires and I'm longing for another to make me complete, all the usual human stuff, blaming, shaming, victimization, you're part of the astral world because hell is the lower few levels of the astral world. So you're just part of that confusion. The more you work on yourself, addictions, and so on. I'm not saying make yourself perfect, but the more you work on yourself and you clear out wounds and you don't have, you have Teflon where you used to have Velcro, where everything's stuck. And now you're cleaner, clearer. And what happens is you're not drawn vibrationally to the astral plane. And so you start having clearer messages. Dreams just become clearer. They might still use some symbols, but the message in itself is not so blown apart, fragmented, because it's not coming from a fragmented person. You work on yourself, you become clearer, cleaner. Now your astral experiences, your dream state, become clearer and cleaner. So to me, that's that's fantastic. Just, God, what a difference that you don't have to go through all the confusion to get to that place, to go, wow, I need some help. God, what would you have me do about this buying a new car? What would you have me do in this relationship? Clearer and cleaner messages come through because you are clearer. Relationships, as I mentioned, become better when you become better. Okay? Now, the next category, which is similar to dreams and visions. What I said there was, you'll have dreams which are more abstract. You start having more visions during sleep time. Okay? I call those visions. I call them dream visions personally. When I share something with somebody, I say, well, I had a dream vision. What that is to me is it's still happening at night because it's dream time. We call those dreams. But what happens is instead of this crazy abstract imagery, dreamscape, what happens is, like I wrote a book called The Heart of A Course in Miracles. So it's a very simple story to that. I was in dream and someone came up, a guide came up and handed me this round, like a disc, okay? You remember that game you used to play? Red, blue, and then you try to memorize the pattern of, what is it? Simon? Oh, Simon Says. So you follow it. Well, it looked kind of like that. It was disc and it had these symbols kind of on it. And they handed it to me. And when I got it, it started downloading some like powerful statements. And I'm going, wow, that's, wow. And then I'm like, so now I'll just go to sleep because I was in half awakening, which is called the twilight zone. So I'm kind of drifting back to sleep and I'm like, I'm not going to sleep. There's more. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. All right. So I'm going, okay, there's this one amazing statement. There's 2, 3. I'm like trying to say, no, fine. Then there's 4 and 5. And I'm like, oh, fine. So I get up and I go to my computer and I thought, these are just so cool. Maybe I'll be able to share these on a Sunday. And I sit down and I'm typing, there's 1, there's 2. And I'm like, okay, 7. We're going to call this 7 principles of A Course in Miracles or whatever. 7. Okay, wait, there's 8. I know it's not going to stop at 8. It's got to be cool. It's got to be 7. It's got to be, okay, if it's not 7, what's it going to be? Okay, it's not going to be 8, is it? 9, 10. 10's an even number. God, just so you know, I can go back to bed if we hit 10. 10 commandments, come on. Moses was no slouch. Come on, just 10. And it keeps coming. I'm like, fine, 12, And it's the 12 primary principles, concepts of A Course in Miracles. And God's coming through this thing, Spirit, God, divine consciousness is downloading this for me and for the world. There's 12 primary concepts in A Course in Miracles. Okay. But it starts off with 1 and then 2. Why? Because they know you better give it to him gradually. He's not, if you say 12, he's going to be like, no, let me sleep, or something. So it's a fun banter that goes on with me in spirit, All right. That's me. I stand here and, hello, beloveds. On a Sunday, thank you for being with us on this sacred Sunday service. At home, 3:33 or something in the morning. I enjoy going, oh my God, fine. And I laugh. I do it not as a rude person. I do it because it's funny. I just, stinking computer. I got to wait for it to queue up. I mean, I do talk like that to myself, and because I'm old, I can sound grumbly. Anyway, the next one that I said is like dreams and visions, divine revelations. Divine revelations means that the ego is not permitted to get in there. This is when you have divine revelatory downloads. John had it 2,000 years ago when he wrote the Revelation. Well, wait, that's heavy stuff. Because divine revelations are God coming through you. You're still a filter. You're still going to hear it from your mind, in your mind, the way you interpret. So John's revelation was his awakening Christ vision for him. But his revelation was not so specific to him that it didn't apply. Notice this. The divine revelation of John the Apostle also fits 70, 80% for everybody. Everybody is the book of life. Everybody has 7 seals that will be opened and purified. Almost everything he said there would be for everyone. You'll know you're having divine revelations because typically they're so clear, they're so accurate, they're so inspiring. But also, they would be likely applicable to anyone and everyone. It's not you. I mean, in one respect, they're very personal. That's what's interesting. It's like a contradiction or paradox. John's revelation is generally for everyone. But when he said, when the 3rd seal opened and I saw this, that's probably not what you're going to see because you have different issues than he had. When the 7th seal opened for him, it's going to be different than you. So that's where it varies. When it starts talking about, well, in this case, the symbolism of stuff coming out of each center as we're cleared. Well, if one of your biggest challenges for you is your 3rd chakra, that's going to be different than for his 3rd chakra. So there are some variables, but revelations are in one respect general for everybody, but in another respect, at the same time, they're very much for in each individual. So divine revelations, if you have one and you know it's a divine revelation, divine again, it's not so much my angels told me or this told me. Very rarely do people have these, but it happens where the Spirit of God speaks directly into your soul. And it's very rare. And it's so rare, and it only lasts a moment. It doesn't last too long because your body would burst into light if the presence of God downloaded that directly for that long. So that's why we need true synchronicities, why we need angels, because these are the messengers of God. Direct divine revelation should not be a goal of ours. It's just to understand when those happen, it's like, wow. You can just tell something very, very magical and beautiful happened. I've had them, but I swear to you, I don't sit around going, well, when's my next one? I do not get attached to, as best I can, anything in this world, including divine revelations. Because when you chomp at the bit to get them, you block them. Just like true love. Went back to that one, didn't I? So divine revelations, that's the highest you can have while you're here. What's the 7th one? Oneness with God. That's when you have real Christ vision. I mean, how can you not? Because Christ is God. So the 7th one is really one that we can't talk about because there's no way to describe it. It's oneness with God. However, I will go so far as to say the 7th one, the Christ vision via oneness with God, is not something you sit around and do and work to make happen. You do the best you can with cleaning up your life. You do the best you can with awakening the first 6 of ways of opening the vision of Christ. The 7th one is all into God's hands. God will determine when to lift you into that final step. In this case, it's 7, but there's other talks I've done when I said there's 3 things that will happen and God does the final step. That's just different context. But here, this 7th one, oneness with God. If you think, oh, when I die or when I take this particular medicine or whatever, I'm going to have my oneness with God. That's not. Nothing you can do gets you to the oneness with God. You only get kind of to the oneness with yourself. When you sit in that vibration enough, God will reach down and take you the rest of the way. But there's one caveat to that. God never lifts any of us the rest of the way unless you can do more good there than here. And here meaning not only the earth plane, even from the astral plane or the 5th dimension, or if you can do more good here on some level of humanity's service to humanity, some level of humanity's evolution, you're still going to be here. And you want to, even though we go, I want to go home all the way. Part of you wants to go home, and it's a good part of you. But part of you also knows that someone was left behind, and you want to help them. That's the real us. Okay, that's the real us. That is not a negative, that's not an attachment, that's a negative thing. That is a person that has really shown what level of consciousness they are. That's the Christ consciousness that says, I am worthy now of going home. Like Jesus could have said, gone, bye. Do you find that in the Gospels? Do you find his final sermon, his final farewell speech, and then the Lord saith, sucketh to be youeth? Okay, sorry. That's not in the scriptures. Or talk to the hands or see ya. That's not in there. He says, I will be with you till the end of time. That is your real good self that says, yes, I do feel very awake. I do. But I also feel compelled to keep helping. Why? Because there's no two. We're all in this together, which is back to that second or third item I mentioned, right? Think as a we. Because we are a we. It's not like a cool thing. It's we are we. We're one. So I can't go home without my brother. It doesn't compute. Well, I deserve it, and they don't. That's the traditional religious version, that somebody's worthy and somebody's not. Heaven and hell and all that. Long before these concepts of traditional religious heaven and hell, there were deeper understandings. Hell was like the concept of even reincarnation was a depiction of hell. It meant you're bound by your own stuff and something has to change. And as I awaken, even masters, gods, goddesses in Greek mythology, they die. They all had to go to hell, Hades. They had to go to this place. Well, what was that place? Their deepest, darkest stuff. They still had to look at their stuff. So each of us is on a journey without distance to a place we never left, which is God. The end result, this is a sure thing. The game is rigged. We're not going to, some of us go home and some of us not. It's not going to be like we can keep sabotaging. We agreed when we left, seemingly left, we agreed when we left that we would only go for a period of time. And that time is now expiring. In this lifetime of ours, time as we know it is expiring. And when we think of things like the world and, oh my God, changes and this could happen and this could happen and that could happen and that could happen, all they are is statements of our goodbye to a world of limitation. That's all it really is. But it seems painful. You know why? Because of the attachments to the limitations. All we have to do is stop being attached to being little, to being limited beings. Oh, but I don't want to let go of that. Well, of course not. But who's speaking? That's not God. God it's not the voice of God in us that says, I don't want to go home. I want to drag this out. I want to try out some other, I'm going to start as a cockroach on Mars and do this whole thing and some weird cycle of deservability. That's not the real us. That's just the ego. And remember, as I close, when we hear that thought, fear of the end of the world, since there is no world, it can't be that bad, but it can feel like it or seem like it. So when we hear that concept, the concepts of fearing our end or fear of death, remember this, God cannot die. If you become afraid of death, afraid of the end of the world, when you become afraid of the end of a relationship, I'm asking you, is that God speaking? Can God become afraid about the end of a relationship? No. Then who's speaking? It has to be the ego. Why would the ego tell you I'm afraid of the end? Because it would cease to exist. The reason people are terrified at death or the end of the world is because the ego is suspicious that if this death happens, it ceases to exist. And it will. So it's right. But it already doesn't exist. It's just a dreamt up figure. So it's okay. We put on this holographic headset video game, and it had all these creepy things in it. An immortal being walked into a room, put on this holographic headset, one of these, 3D looking things, and started becoming afraid. Frightening figures. And, oh my God, I put this on. I can die? What do you mean I'm hungry? Oh, you look kind of nice. All these kinds of pros and cons. And what's weird is we dreamt these up. We put, this is the holographic headset. Those are being shown to us. We're starting to believe them. And then we became them. So that headset stayed on. When I died, I really died. And then I came back because that's what the program said. And on with the program analogy. And at some point, we go, wait, I put on the headset, and when I take it off, that day is called the Last Judgment. I took off a headset. The Last Judgment was, and then God punctured me with this hot dagger and threw me into hell. Weird people thought that stuff up. Those are images of disturbed people. God can't do it that way. The voice of God's not going to say, are you ready for hell, child? God's voice is going to say, take off the headset. No. God's in there going, I got to go into the program and boo, which is the Holy Spirit, the Divine Mother showing up in our lives as teachers, counselors, authors, or whatever it happens to be that day to say, let's try this the easy way. Instead of horrible things that you try to manage and juggle, how about this? Let's try, hi, honey. It's time to wake up. I don't want to get up yet. I went to bed late. I know, but it's time to wake up. I don't want to wake up. Push the snooze button. The clock's not there. Dang it. So how do I'm awake. Just own it. It's already happening. I'm awake and I can lay in bed and I can pretend I'm still asleep, and that's what we're doing. People that are still running for offices. It's just more of the sleep, people pretending to be asleep. You still think someone's going to change the world because they went into an office? Really? You still believe that, just one more piece of celery and you're going to ascend? Just let it go, man. Let the celery be what it is. The celery is just like, it's just sitting there with its little things out, and it's just like, dude, let me go. Let me go. So forgive the celery, forgive the agendas you put on things and the medicines you think are going to make you ascend or make you healthy. Just play the game and see that it's a game. Drink, eat the celery, do whatever you got to do, date, do what you're going to do, but don't think those things are the answers. The answer is to remember who we really are. And in that, it makes it kind of funny and makes it easier to forgive ourselves for the times we believed that we were that which we are not. Take a few centering breaths, please. Just centering. We're going to share a song which we'll stand up for in a moment, but first, just prayerfully entering this place, all that I am not, I'm putting on the altar of the Divine Mother, the Holy Spirit. All that I am not. We don't have to deeply analyze it, just like as a breath. I am not a limited being. It's not true. It's just silly. I'm needy. I'm lonely. I know we feel that, but it's not the real us. So let's put those things on the altar in our hearts. All that I am not, I'm giving to you, Father, Mother, God. Feel it being lifted off of the altar into the ethers, into the heavens, just dispersed into the nothing that it is. Good. As effortlessly as possible. Good. And we're asking you, beloved Mother, Shekinah, Divine Holy Spirit, we're asking you, birth in us the Christ that we are. Birth in me the Christ that I am. Shh, shut the music, please. Birth in me the Christ that I am, the presence of God. You are my mother. You can give me birth. You will give me birth. Today I'm accepting that birth. I am as God created me, and I will to be the Christ on earth. Breathe that in. Be at peace. Guys, yeah. And we would sing along to it, but it's copyrighted music. So pause and just shut the TVs and music off, guys. Thank you. Help me to forgive. Please stand. We won't do the music and all. What I'd like you to do. Feel the presence of love. Feel the presence of light. Feel the presence of God. And then take your time. For about a minute, we're going to do this. Just take your time. Look around the room. Hold eye contact long enough. I'll give it long enough for you to find at least one pair of eyes. Just turn and say to one another out loud, you are as God created you, and I will to see you as the Christ on earth. Begin. You are as God created you, and I will to see you as the Christ on earth. You are as God created you, and I will to see you as the Christ on earth. You are as God created you. I will to see you as the Christ on earth. You are as God created you. I will to see you as the Christ on earth. You are as God created you. I will to see you as the Christ on earth. Thank you. Did you mean it when you said it? Then how can it not create miracles? Beautiful. Let's close with a tone of love, breathing into it. We'll let that sound happen. We'll sit, do our donations, and then our closing prayer. But just tuning into gratitude for all that we heard today, all that we experienced today. The healing, the miracles, the awakening of Christ's vision. Filling up, filling up. I feel the answers are here. If I had questions at the beginning, I feel they're answered, and I trust they're answered somewhere in my soul. We had addressed forgiveness, self-forgiveness, healing, getting guidance through the topic of dreams, synchronicities, revelations. All these topics, I give thanks. Breathe in deeply, please, and think of what you're connecting with, that you are the Christ on earth. Let it make a sound. Keep going. Breathe when you have to for about a minute, please. Send that sound out throughout the universe. All beings throughout all time, they can hear the sound of God. And we stand confidently that we are the Christ, the presence of God, sending that love to everyone. And so it is. Thank you. Please be seated. In a moment, we'll do our closing song. It'll be the one we do. Please be as generous as you can be as we take up our love offerings. You know, Christ's vision, it's the vision of Christ consciousness. To have that level of consciousness, which is not about perception at all, it's a knowing. But it's so beautiful. You can't tap into the vision of Christ consciousness and still have judgment. All those things I said we do, like forgiveness, those lead us to that greater consciousness, Christ's vision. So it's fantastic. And you can't hold Christ's vision, which is a different headset. It's the crown, okay? It's the consciousness put on the mind of Christ, as Scripture says. And when you do that, it's impossible to not feel love. I feel so in love. You know, there's times I just go, dude, be careful, man. You're just like, I mean, sometimes you just feel so high, so in love with everything. And there's times when a lot of deep things are happening. But when we experience this, we leave a building like this, or you go out from your apartments, condos, or whatever you're living in around the world and watching this program, you carry this with you. Share it and more will be given. Share it again and more will be given. That's what tithing's about. Share it and it'll come back more. Remember generosity of heart, generosity of funds, generosity of heart, generosity of smiles. Let the world see that you're in love, but not the way they usually would think it. Right? Oh, somebody's in love. No. Just be able to go, you have no idea. Give me a kiss. You know, I could just feel in love with everybody. It's just beautiful. So we're going to do our prosperity prayer. Together, please. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Right on. All right. What did you learn today or hear today that made a difference for you or that made the most sense? We all the way home. Anyone else? What did you learn or hear that made the most sense?
As you know, Michael, I write a lot of poetry, and interestingly enough, a lot of my poems, which are spiritually channeled, I used to start with I and you, but in the last year or so, I've written about 100 poems, and nearly all of them I have changed to we.
Wow.
So hearing that in your, I just think that's an interesting concept.
It is interesting. I've written several books, as I said, but in most of them, I use we. Instead of a person that writes a book and says, you need to do this and you need to, I just never, when I saw somebody else write a book and they did nothing but that, and they had this tone of, you people need to change your ways, I was like, oh. So I went back, most of my books I changed, I always kept it we, but a couple of them I changed a little more into the we consciousness. One of them had so many I can't do it, but which is okay because I understand what I mean. So I don't just say, you and you and you. I know what I mean and I let it go. I just changed what I can, accepted what I couldn't. But I think that's great that you caught on to that. You're writing, when you're teaching, when you're counseling, please stop telling people they, you. Well, you need to work on your boundaries. You can say that, it's not criminal, but we all need to work on boundaries.
It's very preachy, is what is a word I
To say you is very preachy. Energetically, it causes like this, people to do this. When you can say we, I'm a good person. I really kind of know who I am, and I feel pretty evolved. And I sit with somebody, I don't care how dysfunctional, I say we. Not, oh, look at you, lowly one who still has naughty behaviors. I say we when I pray. Almost always, we are asking for this. But I'm so evolved, I shouldn't have to. You're only evolved because you're willing to see each other together. That's how you get that Christ vision and understand things at a higher level. Not by, now that I'm evolved, I'm going to start preaching at people. That's what preachers do. And it's not very evolved at all. To really understand and get the highest out of what we do and is to recognize who we are. First and foremost, God, you're my guide, not me. The humility's got to be there. Secondly, we're in this together. You know, it really makes a difference. For me, I know it does. To keep that certain amount of clarity that we're in this together. And it also helps you be more intuitive as to the issues of other people. Yes?
And together we will, we are, and we can.
Yes, that's right. We are, we will, we can. Yes, dear.
Really hit me when you're helping someone or listening to see the end instead of holding in the end.
You like that one? To when you're working with people, to see the end result, not the issue. I'm glad you guys got connected really well with that statement. It's beautiful. See the end result. You know your child's teething, has fever and all that. See that beyond this, you are whole. You're incapable of being ill or whatever it happens to be. That doesn't mean all of them, that nobody will ever be sick or pass away. But even if you're going to pass away, I swear, I'm already seeing you in the light. Like, wow. Like I actually, man, I kind of envy you. Put in a good word. Get me there tomorrow. Like, wow. I don't look at it as, oh, you poor thing, you're passing away. They got an e-ticket out of here. You know, just see positive, see the end results. Here's where we're going. It's a really important part of Christ vision. A couple more hands are up. Yes?
I'm learning about forgiveness.
The forgiveness piece.
If I can't forgive myself, how can I forgive others?
Forgiveness. Yes. Believe it or not only others and ourselves. We have to forgive God for what we think God is. We think God is this thing that put us here. And what thing with love would have put us in a world where people die and have war and, you know, and God has nothing to do with it. Yes. Yeah, ease up on the synchronicities that are just coming from your own, you know, donut store desires, you know. God. Yes? Oh, Helen Schuckman of A Course in Miracles. The scroll story. The past, the future, and God is. Stay in the present. Yeah. Right. Yep, that's right. 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 And it's an interesting take because you will have some past stuff come up once in a while. You will have future things, such as I got a dentist visit, I got a crown that's being put on. You know, you have things, practical, I got to get gas in the car tomorrow. There are future things and there are past things, but the concept isn't pretend none of that is needing your attention. It's do all those from the God is. Be here now. Be fully present. You know, instead of planning our own lives and days and, you know, ask for guidance in the here and now, and the rest will be taken care of. This will heal more easily, and this will be prepared for more efficiently. Still here for now. Anybody else? Yes. We are on a journey without distance to a place we never left. It's one of the most brilliant things I ever came up with. Oh, that's right. It's in A Course in Miracles. Yeah. Well, yes?
First time here, good friends recommended you're such a delight and such an inspiration.
Oh,
And I love your comedic sense. It's so uplifting.
nice. Thank you. She said I'm a delight. Yeah. Oh, that feels so good. Thank you. And she liked the comedy part. One more. Yes, dear. Oh. Yeah. Yes. That's right. Wow, beautiful. she's sharing a couple of different quotes from the time of Jesus. What was the first one you said? Physician, heal thyself. Yes. And all the things I've done, you will do, and more. That's a very important one, because what he's saying is, even I, this is important, even I, Jesus, I have my act together. And even I will only be able to do so much, because it'll blow your mind. So I'll only do so much for today. And there'll be a day where that's easy, and you'll be doing the same things, and even more, because we will acclimate an acceptance of who we really are, that there's no limit of what we can do. So I appreciate so much the patience, and I love it. I love, and I gain every time I'm here, with the we. I gain, today I think one of the primary vibes, there were things I said that I went, wow, I love that, yeah, I hear that now. But being able to be in love, to be able to share this love, and speak about it openly, and really love and appreciate you folks, and all that we're sharing, and it's around the world. And I know that there are people out there that that wish they had the ability to be here in person, because they're somewhere on the other side of the planet. It doesn't matter. To time, space, it's an illusion. We're all in this together, and we have two or more here that are already seeing you here with us. So it's already done. There's no needs. It's already done. And let's be at peace. And remember that romantically too, guys. Be at peace with who you are, right? You don't have to be stalkers. You don't have to be codependents. Just, do you know who you are? Oh, but I'm still waiting for Kevin Costner to find me. Listen, he's already been divorced a couple times. Maybe you don't want him. Maybe, I don't, let it go. Work on being so amazing yourself that you are the presence of love. And then let other people who are the presence of love share that with you. For a moment, a lifetime, whatever, it won't matter, because of how full you are. I mean, that's a hard one to get across to people sometimes, because they go, well, I get it, but I sure would like someone to hold me. Just grab the person next to you and hug them and get it over with. But I'll bet you're going to want another hug tomorrow, because it's going to become, you still need. Stop the needs, hold the completes. Just like, you really are. I mean, I'm not saying this like a exciting, like I'm trying to cheerlead you into something. It's a fact. You are actually a complete being. And it isn't by using the mind power to get more things that makes you complete. We're already there. Please stand for our closing prayer. What was it?
Well, I was just going to say that since I've really owned the love that I am, the love that's constantly coming through me, what I have found is that love comes into my life in all kinds of other ways.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
Nice.
romantic love at all. It's love of friends. It's love of my cat.
Yeah.
It's love.
Right.
It's just all around me.
That the love isn't somebody being assigned a role. And this is important, because if you really study abundance, prosperity consciousness, you'll be told, let's say you want to come into $100,000. If your mind says it's only coming in one form, you've actually limited when, where, and how it could come. If you're open that it could come through all kinds of means, could come from, who knows, anywhere, everywhere, maybe chunks here and there to give you your 100 grand that you're thinking you need in your life. Guys, stay open. And it's the same what she was just saying. The love is the same as the prosperity. The love is, and my cat, myself, my friends, my next door neighbor, whatever it happens to be. See love everywhere. See it here and allow it everywhere. I see love here and I allow it everywhere. No limit. Don't put any stuckness to it. But if you do, see it and say, I'm owning that, yeah, I'm being a little stuck right now and I want it in a little way. And if I get it, it's going to have a little satisfaction and not a lot. Own that. Yes? Everything came out of what? A joyfulness. Thank you. Yeah, right? And that's what it can be for all of us. He's saying, everything I was sharing came out of like a joyfulness. It is. It is, and I'm not stoned. It really is joyfulness. I'm aware of challenges in the world, And I will work with them a day at a time while still holding the vision of our return home. The light of God surrounds us.
We are the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
We are the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
We are the power of God.
And the presence of God watches over us.
We are the presence of God.
Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Peace be with you all. Bye-bye.